So virtually all of our patients have digestive issues in one form or another: Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel syndrome, chronic indigestion. And one of the most common questions we get is, what do you think of probiotics?
Well, we get those questions even from patients coming in with rheumatoid arthritis and ankylosing spondylitis and psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis. Because most people understand now that most of these problems are generated within the gastrointestinal tract, which is a pretty big system. It is a very common question. I got that a lot from the students during the 35 years I taught clinical nutrition and gastroenterology also.
Yeah, and I think it probably stems from the fact that probiotics are one of the most heavily marketed supplements.
Very heavily marketed, and when I was a teenager, you were lucky to even find yogurt in the grocery store. And now you go to the Kroger or the Publix, and there's a whole wall of the grocery stores lined with all these probiotic formulations for yogurt from all kinds of manufacturers now.
Yeah, and so the question then is, are probiotics really the cure-all that they're marketed to be? They're marketed for just about every digestive problem. And so are they all they're cracked up to be? Are they overrated?
Well, they certainly are over-commercialized. But they go back a long way. The history of probiotic, meaning something that is for life, for biotic life, it goes a long ways back. It goes all the way back to the Eli Mechkinov, who was a Jewish-Russian immunologist and zoologist, who was observing the Bulgarians, and he found that a lot of those Bulgarians seemed to live a long life and a pretty healthy life. And he said, what could be the advantage that these people have? And he found that they all drank this cultured dairy product that was fermented with some type of bacteria. And he found out the bacteria was a lactobacilli. And he believed that one of the keys to good health was drinking a lactic acid fermented formula. And so he became a proponent of using lactic acid to kind of disinfect the gastrointestinal tract. And they say that he actually drank some lactic acid yogurt-like formula for the rest of his life. I don't think he actually lived real long, but he lived into his 70s anyway. But he was certainly a very well-known immunologist. And he was actually the one who came up with the whole idea of phagocytosis. I think he won a Nobel Peace Prize for that, actually.
Yeah, so it's an interesting concept in introducing bacteria into the GI tract to try to positively influence the microbiome. But from experience in working with patients, for me about 15 years and you almost 50 over the years, we've seen a lot of people come in who have all kinds of digestive issues, autoimmune problems that are related to digestive problems, and virtually all of them are taking probiotics. And I can't say I've seen one person come in and say, I took these probiotics for a period of time and all my problems went away.
No, I think the most extreme case we saw, there was a guy coming in, a gentleman, who was taking like 2 bottles of probiotics every day, every single day.
I remember that.
And said he had to do that or he couldn't manage his problems. It wasn't getting well, but he felt it was helping managing it. I think, it's helpful to look back at when a baby is born. And when a baby's born, its gastrointestinal tract, its intestines, are sterile. They're virtually sterile. And the first food the baby can and should get is mother's milk from its own mother's breast. And those babies do very, very well. And healthy bacteria, probiotic bacteria, start growing very quickly because the environment within the gastrointestinal tract is good. It's like having a garden. If you have good soil, you don't have to have great seed, even mediocre seed will start growing in there. But you can have the best seeds in the world. If you throw them on the concrete, ain't nothing going to grow.
Yep.
And that's exactly what we see with patients.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming in here, they sing all these advertisements for probiotics. They sing all the probiotic formulas, TV, internet, everywhere. And they start taking them and they're not getting any better. In fact, some of them get worse.
Exactly. And that bears out objectively too, because when we actually do stool testing on patients and measure the microbes that are actually growing in there, we'll see in a lot of cases that they have virtually no healthy flora.
And these are in patients that have been taking probiotics.
Taking it for years.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them that at their reported findings, and some of them will get upset because they'll say, hey, I've been taking these things for years. And how could it be that I have no healthy bacteria growing in the gut? How is it not working? How is it not making any difference? And as you just pointed out, it's not so much a matter of dumping bacteria in there, if only it were that simple, but a matter of establishing a healthy environment so that the bacteria can naturally.
The right conditions for their growth, just like in a garden,
Mhm.
just like with the baby. So we have found, and you and I have found, works is to create the right conditions in the gut. You don't even have to give them probiotics. They just then go on the right diet. Once the right conditions are there, and the right bacteria will start to grow.
And we see that through post-testing, where people will come in with Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, rheumatoid disease, and chronic indigestion. Their initial test results showed virtually nothing healthy growing in the gut. We'll work with them to establish a healthier environment. 6 months later, we retest, and now we have normal bacteria flourishing again, and never gave them a probiotic the entire time.
Right.
Yeah.
And as you know, I was the senior director of research and physician education for a large probiotic company called Garden of Life. We sold a lot of probiotics. I didn't sell them, but I was a speaker for them. And most of those people got well, I don't believe, from taking probiotics. They got well because we had them change their diet. We had made sure they got sunlight. We made sure they got rest and sleep. And we looked for individual problems that they had. And those people that were doing that, and that was the education material that we gave them, did much better. But simply going and buying bottles of probiotics didn't help most people.
Yeah, and there are situations, as we've seen with patients too, that where taking probiotics can actually make the problem worse.
Yes, particularly if they have an overgrowth of bacteria. We have this condition which has been recognized for a long time. It's become much more popular to talk about, called small intestinal bowel overgrowth, which affects a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And if you throw more bacteria down there, the general thing that's going to happen is they're going to get worse. They're not going to get better.
Just creating a bigger mess.
A bigger mess,
mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yep. And so in working with patients to positively influence their GI tract, to positively change the conditions down there, we see bacteria, the right bacteria start to thrive, abnormal bacteria start to die off, and normal healthy function be restored. There are situations, though, where probiotics can be useful if done at the right time with the right strain. It's not just as simple as just take a probiotic.
No, because there are not only trillions of bacteria in our guts, but there's thousands of different strains and substrains and subspecies of bacteria. And one of my jobs as the director of research for Garden of Life was to research all these different probiotics, these different probiotic bacteria. And there are literally thousands of papers that have been written over the years. I'd say primarily over the past 30 years on different probiotic strains and what they do. But you still have to have the right conditions for them to grow in the first place. And if you don't, much is going to happen. And just simply throwing good bacteria in a bad situation, nothing's going to happen. Or even worse, bad things can happen.
That's the problem. Yeah. Exactly.
And one thing I like to convey that I think our discussion kind of points out is that taking pills, whether they be drugs or supplements, capsules of probiotics, is not really the road to getting well. And we like to think, most people like to think, and I understand why, that we could just take a bottle of pills or 2 bottles of pills or 3 bottles of pills, or as we sometimes see, 10 or 20 bottles of pills people come in with, whether it's drugs and or supplements, they can get well. The important thing to understand is we have to create the right conditions. That's what God and nature require. And once we create the right conditions suitable for that individual, then the body has a chance to be recreated. It has a chance to get well. Pills, whether they be natural or unnatural, alone don't do it. Just don't do it.